Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday with Mortgage Coach. Every Tuesday, 9 o'clock, you are here to learn from the best of the best. Every Tuesday, I'm interviewing amazing people. Today, I have Todd Bookspan as our co-host. What's up, Todd?
Hey, excited to be here on a Tuesday. It's always great to be in this community, but it's fun to be here a little earlier in the week than usual.
Yeah. So some of you might know that Todd and I co-host a productivity mastermind every Friday at 9 o'clock. I just started sharing my screen, and not only do we do a live call at 9 o'clock, we also have a Facebook group called Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. If you have not already asked to be part of that group, ask and we'll approve you. Friday is all about making more money in less time. It's all about personal productivity. But today we're going to talk about leadership. And so here was a post that I put. This is going to be special. So Todd and John, you got to live up to that. Tuesday's always a pretty awesome call, but this one's going to have to be even extra special. I am broadcasting live at an MBA annual, so I'm in Denver, Colorado. I won't be on this entire call. I'll actually be jumping off in, 15 minutes. But I'm really going to hand it off to Todd to introduce John Downs. It's the first time that we've interviewed him on a Tuesday call. So, John, thanks for making time for the community, and thanks for all the leadership you are bringing to the Mortgage Coach community. I'm looking forward to the interview.
All right. Well, here I go. It's truly my pleasure. When we originally kind of envisioned this call, it was going to be Dave and I chatting, and really was kind of blown away by what good friend and client John Downs has been doing over the last few weeks, kind of launching into using Win by Noon as a philosophy to engage his community, not just loan officers, but real estate agents. And then he's also using Dave's terminology, shine the light on the TCA and use that as a tool to engage even more with realtors and to differentiate himself within the marketplace. And John's kind of been under the radar screen, but John's a producing branch manager for Caliber based out of the DC area, and did $100 million last year. So he's a producer himself, and his branch as a whole did almost $200 million. And so without further ado, welcome Mr. John Downs. John, are you there?
John, Yep. You might be muted, John.
All right. Well, we'll chat for a minute.
Wait. No, real quick. You muted him, Todd. So, John, try to unmute yourself one more time. All right. Well, he tried, and I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. But don't press the mute button. He was muted there.
I do not know how I did that. So now I'm totally a failure as a host. But that was a pretty good setup for John. And so now you guys will have even more anticipation for him to show up. So let me just sort of talk about where I was going to head with the conversation today, and kind of run you guys through a couple of things. And so right now, let me make myself the presenter, and then I'm going to, or hopefully maybe Dave will make me the presenter. And then I'm going to, once I'm there, I'm going to kind of share with you guys sort of, my initial thought on when it was shown to me that, hey, let's talk about how loan officers who want to be successful in working with realtors can jump on and do that. And so the first thing that came to my mind is something that you all who are on the Friday calls have heard me talk about a lot, and that is the Mortgage Coach YouTube page. And so again, when most people think mortgages, they think or Mortgage Coach, they think total cost analysis, but I think there's a ton of value here. So I started off just by Googling Mortgage Coach YouTube, and then got to this main page here. Where I want to shine a light is right here in the middle. There's a playlist button, which is kind of an unknown thing that a lot of people aren't aware of that exists. And when you come in here, there's all sorts of different playlists that Dave has created, but there is one in here. One is there's realtor interviews. So you can see there's 17 videos that are realtor interviews. A lot of those are done by Coach Bill Hart, who runs an interview series on here, which is awesome. And then there's also a group in here that is just a realtor group. If I can find it really quick, I will open it up. Real World, Real Script. I'm sure it's here in front of my eyes, but as I'm trying to do all this together, You see it in there, Dave? Am I just missing it and blind?
Yeah, you just missed it. But here's what I would tell folks is, first of all, there are a lot of playlists that are topical, so topics that we think you would be interested in. We made it so that they're easy to search. So you could search by someone's name in the search button, and you could also search by playlist. Also, Todd, I did want to let you know that John got unmuted, and he is back into the call.
Awesome. He would just texted me. So that was kind of my first goal, was just to make sure that you guys are aware, because within Mortgage Coach, in the videos here, there are, Dan Keller talking about first-time homebuyer seminars. You've got people talking about how to run a mastermind with realtors. You've got people talking through all sorts of different strategies that you have probably thought about putting out there but have never actually done. And so that's the first thing I think that most people don't realize that Mortgage Coach offers, and I think you need to be aware of. Go in there and spend some time in that community. And then, I don't know, John, did you hear my fabulous introduction of you and how great you are?
I did. I expected to hear a little bit more greatness, but I think that was good enough.
All right. Well, what did I leave out?
I'm just kidding. So no, what I was going to say is I thought it was pretty interesting that you start this call right at 12 o'clock Eastern time, which enables me to win by noon. So I just feel bad for everyone out there on the West Coast that starts their day. I don't know if there's a spot in your planner for that.
Well, this is part of on time. People are learning on the call, so I'm okay with that. But I'm glad that you pointed that out to everybody. And so, kind of as I set this up, and you and I kind of chatted a little bit ahead of time, about sort of, what you're doing. If you could just give everyone just a quick overview of sort of what you decided to do with this 30-day challenge, because I know the backstory and how it relates to realtors so that people are aware, and then we can kind of shift gears into kind of what you're seeing now and what you're doing to engage the real estate agent community.
Hey,
yeah,
Todd,
totally.
Real quick before I jump off, Todd, I recommend that you have the Facebook group showing during the call. And if anyone does have a favorite quote or a takeaway from John during the call, feel free to add that into our productivity group and shine a light on any post. So, John, I'll hand that back to you. I just thought it would be a great idea to make it more interactive and shine a light on our Facebook group.
Awesome.
So
that's
cool. Good idea.
That's a great suggestion. So it's up, and I've also got the question bar open too. So if anyone wants to ask questions through GoToMeeting, but I love Dave's idea. If you're part of the community, let's see it up in there. That would be awesome.
Well, good, Todd. Well, hey guys. First thing is I just want to apologize if I have a bad connection. I was supposed to be in a nice quiet spot for this call, and travel plans didn't quite go as planned. But to shed some light on what Todd was talking about with the 30-day challenge of win by noon, what was interesting is over the last 2 years, I've probably been spending the bulk of my time, mostly growing and nurturing other people. And, it took a branch from 3 people to 19. And of those 16 people that we added, about 10 of those people did not have any experience in the mortgage industry. So for the last 18 months, it's really just been nurturing other people and trying to hold on to my personal production as best I could. When Todd came out with this planner maybe 2 quarters ago or a quarter ago, I instantly wound up seeing the benefits that I could get running my personal team and running the branch and teaching my loan officers, because I found that my entire life was reactionary. And every day was just starting with rogue emails coming in and answering the occasional question. And I wasn't intentional or proactive on any one specific thing. So what I decided to do publicly on Facebook is take Todd's planner and actually live every single day, sort of by design, Todd, kind of like the same way that you put that out there, right? Like Monday would be a dedicated certain day, right? So by noon, you're going to get these things done and called this specific segment of your business, whether it's realtor partners, leads, past. It's awesome for many different ways. One, I'm seeing increased engagement with realtor partners. I'm seeing increased engagement with leads, which is actually increasing our conversion ratio. And I'm also finding that a lot of my realtor partners are intrigued by the overall plan and now actually leaning into me a little bit to say, hey, what are you doing? And how can I use that in my personal life? And of course, that's always a great plug to say, well, Todd's got a Realtor Win by Noon book too. So it's been fun.
No, and I love that. And so, it's been kind of fun for me to watch. And, I know I've got a bunch of mutual friends who are watching along, and some of the names on this call as well have spoken in and commented on your video. So first off, if you're not following John on Facebook, you can just look him up, John Downs, and you can see the videos that he's referring to. And the engagement's been really good. And so let's take a segue for 1 minute away from Win by Noon and talk about the total cost analysis, because certainly one of my other goals, besides showing the YouTube channel, was sort of how great loan officers are using the total cost analysis to engage with agents. And you posted a video where you talked about using the total cost analysis with their clients. And can you just kind of give everyone a quick overview of what that looked like?
Totally. Yeah. So I view Mortgage Coach and actually Win by Noon now kind of hand in hand, quite frankly, Todd. And it didn't click for me until I actually did that Friday video. And what I noticed is, if you're going to win by noon, and you're going to try to become the most efficient person and grow business to the highest, you need all the unique thing, but also that wind up. That's probably it, right? So yesterday alone, I had in the DC market, Mondays are the days that everyone writes their contracts. Tuesdays are usually the day that the winner is decided. And yesterday we updated within an hour 7 different presentations, including video, and instantly gave that back out to the client where the agents could actually mobilize quickly and write their highest and best offer. And that used to take me a lot of time going into my company portal or, using some Excel spreadsheet and PDFs and spreadsheets and all that stuff you give clients. So I think my Win by Noon led to better adoption of Mortgage Coach. And quite frankly, because I'm using Mortgage Coach so much now, it's actually caused a lot of my other loan officers that I've been mentoring, when they would come in at 9 o'clock and that normal knock, 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 hey boss, you got a second? I've got this guy, he's thinking about doing this, and trying to figure out what to show him. They don't even ask me that question. Mortgage Coach, and Mortgage Coach tells them what the best option is. So it's becoming, these two philosophies are probably the 2 biggest cornerstones of our business right now.
Well, and I love hearing that because, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, thanks. Remember, guys, I am going to have to jump off soon, so I got to get my questions in while I can. I have a couple questions. So if you're on this call, I want to do this as much of a mastermind format as possible. Please let us know in questions if one, you already have the Win by Noon manual, so you're already part of Todd's community and you invested it. 2, you know what it is. And then 3, you can answer a question saying, I don't even know what it is. What's this Win by Noon thing? I want to just see how many folks are already following the process and how many folks just don't even know what it is. So Jimmy doesn't know what it is. Ed's on it. Looks like we've got a lot of people who are very familiar with it and on it. It rocks. So I just, again, wanted Todd, you and John realize that some of the folks on the call, when we talk about Win by Noon and we talk about the Win by Noon journal and some of what you're doing, they're not even familiar what it is. So it looks like the majority of folks do, but a good portion of them don't. So heads up on that, guys. Anyways, keeps the conversation going, and I'll probably jump off unannounced there within the next 5-10 minutes.
Awesome.
Take care,
no, thanks for your sharpening, Dave. I love that, and it's great. So here's what I think we'll do is let's let John finish up on the TCA piece and sort of how he's using those realtors, and then I will pause John for a moment. I will do a quick, I don't want to say infomercial, but let's just call it an infomercial. I'll kind of talk about what Win by Noon is, and certainly love seeing a ton of familiar faces on here. And then
one more thought, Todd. Actually, again, we're always going ad hoc and informal. I think it would be great that we have John on here to have him tell it what it is, because we've got lots of recordings in our YouTube channel. If folks are interested, they can hear you talk about what it is. But let's let John, provide a high level of what he thinks it is, as though he's presenting it to his peers. Even
better. Love it. Love it. All right. So Dave keeps popping on and off. I'm leaving myself off since John's on audio as well, and we'll show the Facebook page, even though it's super boring because none of you have posted on it yet. All right, John, let's just swing back in there. So let's kind of lay up layered questions for you. I know oftentimes when people hear that you're updating weekly or bi-weekly, in some cases, the TCA, and you just said you added video too, and you said it didn't take very long. I think there's a lot of people who are kind of non-believers and aren't really convinced that that's possible. Can you kind of walk through what your experience has been so far in jumping in and having that commitment to update TCAs on a frequent basis? John Downs, are you there? I'm just peeking folks to see if we lost him, but he shows that he's still here and he shows he's on, so maybe he's muted. Hey, John, can you unmute yourself?
Here we go, Todd. I think I just worked now. Sorry.
All right.
Yes,
no,
can you hear me okay?
Yep. Fire away, John.
Yep, go ahead and repeat that question. I'm sorry about that, Todd.
No worries. I was just asking on the TCA, when you said, hey, we came in yesterday morning and we updated 7 clients with new videos and updated scenarios, I think that overwhelms a lot of people. And so can you kind of walk through, really what's your process for it and how long did that take? Because when you first told me you were going to be doing that bi-weekly at a minimum, kind of scared me as your coach, and you guys are just crushing it.
Sure. So yeah, let me walk you through that because I've told Dave this a few times that I signed up. I had this idea that I'm going to do this because I thought it was awesome, and then I realized after 3 or 4 months I never used it. So I'm like, why am I paying for it? And then I kept seeing value, kept signing on again, and finally Dave 10. Find a way to use the system, and it'll get easier. And then, of course, I've watched, a friend of mine, Josh Metal, and, colleague of ours, Todd, out in Utah, and he did a video on Facebook about doing it, YouTube, doing a TCA in like less than 5 minutes or something. And I luckily now can do them in about 3, which is pretty good, I think, even with like a 1-minute quick video. But what we've been doing is, step 1 is you have a client consultation. Step 2 is a TCA where you're diving into what options they should do and whether you're trying to uncover a sale price point, whether you're trying to highlight the differences between LPMI, BPMI, or combo liens, or whatever that thing is that you do to help pre-qualify people and frame their search. I think we all kind of know everyone is looking at 1 or 2 products. Right, I'm either going to do a 90% single lien monthly or single lien LPMI. So what we do is we go into that TCA and we frame it as, buyer name / purchase, right? So first name, buyer name, last name, and mortgage coach purchase. And then we just create the 2 scenarios, the 2 10% down, 1 BPMI, 1 LPMI. So that way when they call, all we're TCA, we're just changing sale price, changing rates to be current, and tweaking property taxes. Everything else is, the formulas kind of knock it all out. Whereas before, we were jumping into all of our spreadsheets and then PDFing and then typing a novel, and re-highlighting all the things on the spreadsheet because no one could look at it, right, on the spreadsheets because they're confusing. We all use PCs. People make fun of us here, but they have that little snip tool, and we usually snip the summary screen of the TCA and put it in the body of the email. And I think that's actually been a little bit better received with our clients because sometimes they're just not easily able to just, hop on their phone or something, but if they're glancing over email, they can just see the highlighted summary portion, which is, quite frankly, better than any spreadsheet that I've been able to put together. So that's kind of how we're doing it. So yesterday when people called us, it was really quick to say, give me the property address and the price points you're considering. And then we could even copy and add 2 more price points if they're thinking of escalating. And literally each one took maybe 5 minutes.
Well, and I think that's awesome. And so what kind of feedback did you get from clients? Was it quicker results to get them to make a decision? You said that agents knew what their max price was. What else did you see or what are we missing here? The feedback has been awesome. I was trying to look on my phone right now to find a couple and read them to you, but just within the last few days, the ones we received, I was like, holy smokes, that was fast.
Another person said, wow, that was quick. Thanks so much for the personal message that you gave me too. This makes a lot of sense, with the ability to do everything on video. So I think it makes things more personal. The other thing I would say is, of course, in the DC market, everyone gets under contract and then they start shopping you to death. And when I get emails from other loan officers, it really made me realize just how lame the industry can be and just how we take for granted that the rate itself is the one thing that drives them towards using us. So in other words, I would look at an email and it would be from loan officer. Today's rates are X. Your payment would be Y. Your cash to close is Z. Please call me if you have any questions. Like, that's not building value. And I think by taking the extra time, and I think truly it's less time, but let's say it's harder for you to get used to the system, maybe it takes you an extra 3, 4, 5 minutes to put a TCA together. But the combination of the data that comes from that, the education that people receive, and the personalization of the video, I just think there's so much value there that the pricing objection falls down a little, and at least keeps you in the running where they call you last. And we all know if you get called last, you win.
Love it. I think that's so important for everyone to hear because, I always get pushback on the time. And, I love the fact that you mentioned Josh and, the fact that he's, put up videos. You can find those on that same playlist area in YouTube. There's a ton of Josh Metal videos. I think there's close to 20. And you can do it fast. I mean, Josh is someone who's probably super efficient. I don't know. I think he puts me to shame. Probably John is in the same league as he is. There's a couple people asking for samples of your TCAs, John. So we'll circle back later and put some up. But I think if you look inside of the Facebook Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind group, you'll see Dave shared into there John's video that he did a little over a week ago for Realtors on. And I think that's a great example. But John, if you've got some other examples, you'll jump in and share. That would be great. If you're not a member of the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind group, just look it up on Facebook. You can see the name of it on my screen right now and just ask to join, and Dave or I will let you in. I think that's key.
Dave Savage wanted to jump in one last time. I did want to let everybody know that on the 7th, Tuesday, November 7th at 9 o'clock, the title of the call is going to be the fastest and easiest way to create a total cost analysis. And John, I would like to formally invite you to be on that call, but I've invited a dozen, but I'm expecting at least 6 leaders in the mortgage coach community to come on and have a little bit of a showdown on who can create a TCA the fastest and actually, show your workflow and speak to your scripting. Each person that I have on that call will probably have 5 to 10 minutes to show how they create it and how they drive efficient and fast workflow with Mortgage Coach. John, you don't have to agree now, but know that you're invited.
I'll totally do that. If you tell me it's a race against Josh, I'm on it.
Yeah, I haven't got confirmation that Josh is going to be there, but Jeremy's been invited. I mean, it's Dan Keller is going to be there. Some of the best all-time mortgage coaches are going to be there showing off their workflow. So put that on your calendar, everybody. And if you know someone who is incredibly successful and who is incredibly efficient and effective with Mortgage Coach, send me an email, Dave@mortgagecoach.com. I have not completely confirmed all the spots for that. So back to you guys. I won't be back in, and the call is yours from here on out, but I love the conversation that's happening.
All right, Dave. Thanks. Have fun at the MBA, and we can't wait to hear what you learn. That's pretty cool. No pressure there, John, but that'll be fun to watch if you can make it. I think it'll be kind of interesting to see for the rest of us how the best of the best at TCAs are making them happen. That's super cool. Anything else, John, on the TCA piece and on your experience with the feedback from Realtors that would be worth sharing with the group?
Yeah, so the one common problem I think a lot of the agents out there have is they don't really get maybe what we do from the lending side, more the advisory position, right? So I think a lot of people just want to know, are they pre-approved or not? And by sending the TCA actually to a lot of the agents, it has fostered more conversation where they say, well, I didn't even know you guys did this kind of stuff. So really you're like wealth managers. You're not even Like, I thought you just got Social Security numbers and said, yes, people could do something and try to get it closed in time. So I think that I'm using it on the realtor side more to illuminate what we do. And I personally think that people in the business that the only thing they do is quote rates and do quick pre-approvals and say, go to my online application. Like, I really think they're dead in 2 to 3 years. I think that, some artificial intelligence will figure out a way to, wipe you out. And I think the advisory side, which Mortgage Coach fosters, just in its regular platform, like, you can't use it and not learn how to be an advisor because it throws it all out there in front of your face that you have to talk about it. So I think that's been the biggest win as far as it goes with the real estate community. There's another little sidebar, and again, this is on the YouTube channel, but I have more people using it as an open house converting tool where they're actually taking the presentation for the specific house and maybe looping it on a smart TV or on an iPad and then saying, hey, if you don't have time to watch it, just give me your cell phone number and I'll text it to you right now. And that's their way of actually getting more engagement and capturing the client and trying to separate themselves. The average person walks through 5 to 8 open houses on a Sunday. You're probably going to remember, 1 or 2 out of them all, right? So then that 1 or 2 provided the most value or you connected with the most. And I think this just gives them another little tool to pass out to deepen the connection.
All right, so wait a minute. Everyone's going, holy smokes, what are they putting on there? So you're creating a generic TCA for that property with what type of scenarios on it?
So I think the best open house conversion usually comes from taking the people that were walking by thinking they couldn't do something or thinking incorrectly about the process, right? Like, we all know people think they need too much money down. So I usually try to illuminate the lowest down payments and obviously the rent versus buy, right? So if an agent says, hey, I'm listing a condo, it's $499, condo fee, whatever, and average market rent in this building is $2,650. Then I'm going to do a TCA against that specific property. I'm probably going to show, well, obviously at that range, call it 5% down loans. And then I'm going to do an LPMI and a monthly. And then I'm going to do a quick little video that focuses on the after-tax net payment, right? And then I call the principal payment, I call it your housing 401k. So it's building wealth, but you can't really just run out there and grab it. One day you will, but not every day. And there's, of course, the tax savings piece. So we're basically just like you would send it to a normal client, but the agent's going to use it for their open.
So the agent's using it to differentiate themselves from the other open houses, and then you're getting the benefit because they're texting it to capture their contact information, and then they have your information at the same time.
Correct.
So, think about that, the rest of you who are listening, like, what a great opportunity when you're making your weekly calls to your realtors to check in to see if they're doing an open house. Why not throw together a scenario for them and encourage them to use this as a success story in a way that they can improve their open house going forward? I love it. What about the people who say, well, I don't like to send the TCA to the realtor because I don't want to give the clients private information on what their rate is because of credit score or have them help me shop? Do you see any agents that are digging in and being nosier than they should be?
I'm not. So, maybe if we had some compliance police on this call, maybe they would say, John, you can't be giving out the whatever. But, I think most of I would say 99.9% of my business comes from old school relational sales, where the agent actually has a deep bond. So it's not a lot of transactional, Zillow lead boomtown kind of stuff. So I think the agent and buyer tend to be more wed together in the conversation. So I haven't had any pushback on that, but it might have something to do with the type of business that I get and the type of agents I deal with.
Love it. So switch gears for a sec. I don't know if you heard or if this is when you're having a phone connectivity. Of the people on the call, there's a split group between people who are current Win by Noon users and people who are unfamiliar with it. And so Dave thought it'd be a great idea if you would just give a quick explanation of what is the Win by Noon planner and what is the philosophy of Win by Noon.
Sure. So, of course, if I say it's not rocket science, I don't want to offend you, Todd. But
it's not rocket science. That's the best part.
Yeah, it's so what it did. So here's what it is. So, if you dive into coaching, you realize that productivity is one of the biggest things. And then you start diving into how you manage your day and how you spend every minute. And Todd's philosophy of winning by noon is just get all your high payoff stuff done before 12, whatever that means. And he gives through his planner some ideas of mortgage professionals and real estate professionals, what maybe your Mondays look like, what Tuesdays look like, what Wednesdays look like. And then he has a week in review, right? Like, how did you do at the end of the week? You have a monthly planner, right? Like, what are my goals for the month? What's the big ticket thing? What are my action items and action plans? So it's just simply a way of becoming more intentional with everything that you do, but with a get it all done by noon. So when I say it's not rocket science, it's really hard to follow, or it was hard to follow for me because I came from such a reactionary world that I had to start telling everyone in my office and everywhere, my partners, my everyone, that from 8 o'clock till noon, I'm dark. Like, I've got to get all this stuff done. And the reason I now buy into it so much is because the day takes you over. There's always a little crisis. And what happens is all the long-term vision building stuff that you need to do, that stuff dies when you're not overly structured. And I'll give you an example. So, this morning I checked my personal team's lead funnel. We have 105 people in our lead funnel. We've got 30-some pre-approved. And then we have, I think, 40-some in goals discussion. And then the rest are just initial contact. So what happens routinely is you stop calling the initial contacts to push them down the goals discussion. You stop calling your goals discussion people because they haven't pre-approved yet. Or you're working on your last 8 contracts, so you forgot to call the other 20-some pre-approved buyers. So if you become more intentional with each of your days, you can actually adopt a no lead left behind campaign and really stick to it. You cannot lose touch with the realtor partners who are not actively sending you a deal once a week or every 2 weeks. We all probably agree that once you have an agent that actually does enough business, managing the transactions becomes ultimately your connection/sales calls. But if you're dealing with the agent that maybe sells 1 a month and maybe you didn't get that one, well, if you're not intentional about reaching out and providing value, you can just sort of sunset into the past and that person forgets about you. So I think that's the big takeaway is that book, as simple as it is, really hard for me to follow and embrace at the beginning. It isn't now, but I think it just overall makes you a better salesperson.
Love it. Awesome. I appreciate you being my salesperson as opposed to me. And it is kind of interesting because, right, it is just a day planner, right? That's what it is. And then it helps you be proactive in your planning, and it helps you review what you've done, helps you figure out conversion rates, and then the philosophy piece around being this idea of maybe trying to do it by noon. What I find was interesting, I was at Sales Mastery. I see some familiar faces on the call who were there too, and I went to the Leadership Live, and Todd Duncan gave a couple of figures out, which I thought were pretty telling of our industry. And so I always just tell you guys that are listening, like, does this apply to you, number one, or if you're a leader on the call, because I see people like Tim West on here, I know lead people, and you're leading people, see if it applies to them. But 91% of loan officers that they surveyed have inconsistent month-over-month fundings, right? We know the roller coaster piece. And then what Todd said right before or right after was, well, 94% of loan officers go into the day with no plan for what they're going to do, right? There's no intentionality around what they're going to do. And so you could maybe be the lucky 3% in there who actually have consistent fundings without planning. But ultimately what they found was that the people who planned were consistent, and that's always my encouragement for all. And so you mentioned, John, that you're using it with your team first and foremost. So can you just give a quick insight on how that's going, and then we'll switch into how the realtors are asking about it and what your plan is there?
Sure. So in the office, it started with week 1 of my challenge saying, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. And I had to frame it that way because they were not allowed to interrupt me with their loan level questions or problems. And then I actually had to give a defined schedule. From 8 to 8:30, you can get some stuff off your plate onto mine if it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, it's not until between 12 and 1, and not again until after 4. So those were it helped me frame buckets of time that people could pull on me, which then almost instantly increased productivity. So because I believe in public shaming, I also have dashboards built into our CRM that really started highlighting and calling out the people that led days that were not structured compared to the people that had very structured days. So it simply became, once they saw me doing it, and once they saw success, they see the dashboards in our CRM, they see me outperforming, therefore they start doing it. And then the people that start doing it start having instant results. And then the people who are struggling to get started, that helps drive them too. So it's become a thing where, you know, I had to pop in and ask someone a question yesterday morning. It was like 9:05, and all the loan officer did is held up the book and he said, "Get the hell out of my office. You know, I'm winning by noon." And he meant it. You know, so I think it legitimately is part of our culture now. And I learned that from some other friends. You know, Josh Metal, our buddy, said that, you know, he shuts off his phones, and he said this 2 years ago, only outbound phone calls for 2 hours, right? They have like an accountability call, kind of like you do, Todd, or did, and then all of a sudden phones get shut down, outbound calls only for 2 hours. So I think there's, you know, that same philosophy just seems to continue to go. But it's certainly caught on in the internally in the office quite a bit.
You know, it just always makes me think, right, that success leaves clues, and ultimately there's no doubt that that Josh was an influence on it, and then the realtors that I was working with my last year of doing origination, that didn't matter where you were in town, you drove to their office and you had your butt in the chair at 9 a.m. and from 9 to noon they had headsets on, they were on the phone doing proactive lead generation. And if someone said, "Hey, I want to look at a house now," they would say, or tomorrow at 10 a.m., they would say, "Awesome, I've got a commitment at that time, but I can show you in the afternoon." And ultimately, they were super focused, obviously, on closing deals, but they were so pig-headed and focused on lead generation first and foremost that the agent who ran the team would have rather referred that out to a different agent or lost the client over breaking that piece of business that lead generation is number one, and that's what we do. And so that's sort of where a lot of the philosophy got inspired. It also got inspired by Coach Bill Hart, who wrote the By Noon Effect and talks about, you know, all these things, you know, the day before vacation miracle, where it seems like you had these huge to-do lists for months and months and months, and you're going on vacation tomorrow, and miraculously you get it all done. And so, you know, there's just some great philosophy there, but ultimately in the end, it's just a tool to structure your day. And so I love hearing you talk about how you're using it as your team, because I am seeing branches now using it. And I've loved your dashboard. John did a video recently on what that dashboard looks like. So he's been really transparent with the community on what his team looks like. And so if you want to see that too, you can check that out on John's website. Talk to me then for a second, John, because I know that you've got a plan to institute with your realtors. What's that going to look like?
Yeah, so I think, and again, guys, I apologize if you can't hear me too well. It's starting to get a little noisy. But so, you know, with the realtor partners, what I find is that people at the high end that run legitimate teams, they don't always get it, but they mostly get it. So the people that I'm getting pulling at me right now are what I would call not the top 10% agent, but maybe the next 20, or maybe not the top 15, but the next 15. And what they're intrigued by is just this idea of doing better business in general. And what I think about, and I feel this way with both mortgage and real estate, that we all fell into this business somehow. We didn't go to school for it. We were, you know, either failing at something in life or just didn't have a passion in whatever we did. And someone said, "Hey, why don't you do this?" And you said, "Sure, why not?" And there's not a tremendous amount of coaching and training, broadly speaking, in both industries. And so I think there's a thirst for figuring out better ways, figuring out ways of being successful. And I think the win by noon approach that we've been putting in with the realtor partners is kind of, it's like 3 or 4 different ways to look at it. So step one was saying, well, how are you managing your day? And what I kind of quickly realized is they all just sort of live like bums in the morning. You know, they get their gym and their grocery shopping and all that stuff. And they thought real estate happened between like 1 and 7. And then when I'd say simple things like, so I've noticed that you sold, 40 houses in the past 3 years. When's the last time? And you could go and, depending on your market, you can get a list of what all those houses are. And I bring that list with me and I put it on the table. I'm like, when's the last time you called that guy? When's the last time you called this guy? When's the last time you called that guy? And what they quickly realize is they're like, oh crap, I'm not doing any of that stuff. So they realize then, oh, I need a past client campaign. So if you had a past client campaign, what would it look like? And that becomes an action item. Another thing is, okay, you have your open house on Sundays, but now what do you do with those leads? When do you call them? How often do you engage with them? What content are you providing? What value are you using to convert them? that then becomes yet another action plan that we work on together. And when you read Todd's planner for real estate agents, it gives sort of the same idea of segmenting your days to go ahead and, pick a high payoff activity that day. And it's leading to, okay, well, maybe Mondays is following up on open house traffic. Maybe Tuesdays is calling all my current clients that were shopping. Maybe Wednesday is going into re-engage with the open houses for the people I met 2 weeks ago and on time to figure out past client nurture system or something like that. So I'm using Win by Noon to basically say, you need to run a better day. That's just the start of it. If you run a better day with no system or plan, you're still going to fail. So let's run a better day, let's be intentional, and let's begin building all the things that will make you successful in the years to come.
No, and I love that. And so as you guys think about it, there's no better time of the year to get face-to-face with real estate agents and help them business plan. And so whether Win by Noon is a tool that you choose to use or whether it's other business planning tools, in my career, I had no better time to get up in front of a room of realtors and teach. And so I could teach to a group of 30 realtors. A title company would help, get them in the room, or the real estate company would help get them in the room. And it was a great excuse. I used a one-page simple business plan from Building Champions. If you're not familiar with that, Daniel Harkeby, the CEO and founder, has done some calls on that. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to help get you connected to get a copy of it. It's just a one-page quarterly plan. And by doing that, it gave me the opportunity and the invitation to follow back up with agents. I had a reason to meet with them every quarter because I could actually then help them do the next quarter. I had a reason to either call them weekly or biweekly or monthly, depending on whether they were, what their level of production was. Some people we were meeting monthly to go over their results. And so what I'm seeing now is with the real estate agent versions, I'm seeing loan officers like Bliss, Sawyer, who most of you know is kind of a marketing genius, right? She's been leading masterminds around it. She's leading her second one next week. And she said that she's got people really excited about it. And she's going to build her next year's whole mastermind series around this concept to help them grow their business. So it's a great tool to help them. And whether you use this tool or any other ones, I definitely think that there's a huge opportunity for you to be more and help your agents grow, right? It's a little bit self-serving, right? Number one is you're helping them grow, you're getting more connected to them, and ultimately in the end, it's probably going to result in more business. What do you think, John?
Can you hear me, Todd?
I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. I agree. Yeah, so it's both. So the self-serving part, I totally agree with, but I also think it's important for our partners, and I'll give you kind of a case in point. So at Caliber, we service our loans. Some people say that's great, some people not. But one thing they started measuring was our recapture. And if anyone has read the book Ninja Selling, which is probably my favorite book of all time for real estate and mortgage, it says that the NAR statistic of people returning to the same agent when they go to sell and buy something else again is 28%. And what I noticed by looking at the fallout from my servicing book is that I retain exactly 28% of all of my past clients. And those 28% that I retain just so happens to be with the same real estate agent. So the other 7 out of 10 are going to someone else. And they're going to someone else because both of us run bad businesses, right? We didn't do something right to prolong a connection and stay together for however long. So my personal mission of making all the agents that we work with do a better job is so that 5 to 7 years from now, when our entire pipeline moves, we maybe get a 200 to 300% increase in production just because everybody comes back to us. So we all need to run better businesses, both the real estate agent and the loan officer. And this is just a catalyst to get me deeper into making them understand that, but also having, looking in the mirror and realizing I need to as well.
Well, that's really huge. So, think about that. So one agent is responsible for all of that. So have you sat down with that agent to analyze what they're doing different? Is it real estate reviews like you do annual mortgage reviews, or is it something different?
So the common theme is that they had legitimate life connections formed through selling the real estate transaction. And so you have friends, right? And your friends you'll call every now and then and say, hey, what's going on, man? And it became more of that. So that is just natural. So you're not going to, like, you don't need to work for natural, right? It just comes to you. You have friends and your friends are going to come back to you. Well, we have to work on all the things that are not friendship-based, that are not natural. The other, 72% of those people that use someone else, how do we get them? So you need a system in place to get to them. I don't know if I really answered a question or went on a little tangent here.
I think you did both. I think you did both. So it's a relationship selling. They're doing a great job of building relationship and rapport, and they have a system behind it. Yeah. Well,
or no system, right? They made friends. So what we're doing is first raising awareness behind what all of our independent deficiencies are. So step one is, what are you not doing? And then what you'll find is no one has a client for life campaign. No one has a really good lead nurture system. And agents, most of them don't even use CRM systems and barely use Excel spreadsheets. So step one is we help them move down that direction. Everything that I have as a loan officer to run a good team, I need my agents to do the same thing, because I don't know how people can be successful without it, right? So, but the other thing is finding legitimate, so I'm speaking of the 7 out of 10 people that agents lose 5 to 7 years from now. We need to do something to provide legitimate value year in and year out that is not cheesy. So the thing that I figured out that I think works really well is, the annual mortgage review that you and Richardson and a lot of people have been telling me about for years, I just started doing this year. And the system involves really 4 touches, 2 from the loan officer, 2 from the real estate agent, spread out over a 30 to 45-day period of time. And one is me reaching out, hey, how you doing? How's everything been going? It's that time of year we're doing our annual mortgage reviews. Here's what we do. When's the last time you talked to? Enter realtor's name. Then they usually say, most of them, I haven't. And then you say, well, would you mind if I reach out to them so they could do a market analysis so we can have a good idea of value so that this analysis is a little tightened up? So they always say yes. So you then get to call the agent. Agent then calls buyer and says, hey, John just called me as he's doing an annual mortgage review, and they can further a connection. They give me the value. I do the mortgage presentation, do the annual mortgage review through TCA, Mortgage Coach with the video. I then send it to the agent. Agent then reaches back out again and says, hey, John told me he did your annual mortgage review. So cool. He told me about the whatever the hot thing was, whether it's a net worth thing that they accomplished or the timing they purchased. There's always something they can talk about. But since we've been doing that, on average, agents have been getting between 1 and 3 leads from those people. And I really don't think they would be getting any of those had they not gone through somewhat of an important big value add, right? Like, it's not a birthday card. It's not like, hey, how have you been? I've been thinking about you, which everyone knows you really haven't been. It's like something real that deals with their net worth and their future. So I'd really like that approach, and so far that's been a big hit.
Well, think about it, right? there's what's wrong with calling your realtor, reintroducing them to their client they forgot about, and handing them a future transaction, right? That's a home run all the way around. And so, just think about the things that John is saying, because John is, one of the highest level thinkers I know when it comes to systems and ideas. And just taking it one step further, where I did annual client reviews for years, and I would certainly reintroduce the client to the agent if the client was thinking about selling, but I just asked the client what they thought their house was worth. And John's taken it a step further by reintroducing the agent, because he doesn't want his agents to be part of the 28% from Ninja Selling. It's just a great opportunity to provide more value. And so I think that's really the goal of today's call, is really how can you provide more value to your agents without having to be the people who are bringing donuts, without having to be the people who are writing checks or potentially violating RESPA, right? None of that should be on your screen. If you just are helping people grow their business, helping people re-engage with a philosophy around getting back to their clients, I think that really helps. John, you mentioned the proactivity piece of grouping stuff by day. Are you finding that that's helping you, and that you're able to translate that to your agents to do one task in one day versus trying to be random about it throughout the week?
I am. So yes. So to answer your question, I think grouping things, it gives you some momentum of a singular issue. So I always say really good loan officers are really good because they've said and done the same thing 5,000 times, right? And there's some, to be an expert at something, you have to do it 10,000 times. Well, I think that goes down to your day as well. Like if your goal is to have this specific conversation and you've got to make 30 of them today, they're going to get better and better and better and easier and easier and easier. So for me, segmenting the days works. I also found that you can segment the day to kind of speak to your market. So, Mondays, people are preparing to write offers. Tuesday, they're submitting offers and negotiating. Wednesdays, and this is all my market, Wednesdays, they get ratified and they might shop you and they're getting mortgages started. Thursdays are kind of dead. And then Fridays, everyone's saying, hey, I might go check out these houses this weekend. So I can kind of take that approach and figure out my entire week so that I'm not also intruding. Like, I know a lot of loan officers, and there's some coaching firms that say, you should call all your realtor partners on Mondays. If I call my realtor partners on Mondays, they hang up on me. They're just too busy. They got too much going on. And I think, but Thursday, they're like, hey man, what's going on? Putting a couple of properties on the market today. What are you doing? So I believe in segmentation.
I love it. Hey, I'm going to pause for 1 second. I've got a bunch of people asking in the question bar about where to find the planner. It's just winbynoon.com. And if you use the code Mortgage Coach, it's currently active. If you're listening to this in the future, it may not be active in the future. I don't know what the expiration date that was set there, but if you use the code Mortgage Coach, it'll get you free shipping. You just need to select that option. So just as a quick aside, that'll apply to the real estate agent or the loan officer edition. And so, sorry, keep going, John. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I've been messaging people on that, but it keeps coming through, so I might as well just tell everyone who's on the call.
Sure. Yeah, no, I know some people had some pushback with the segmentation, and what yesterday, so I have a 2-day trip, today, tomorrow, and yesterday I went through every single one of my leads and put a plan together. And what was funny is I wound up doing all the easy stuff and not probably the stuff that really I should have done, because you look at this big, massive list of to-dos and you naturally just clear the easy ones off first. So I think when you segment your days, it also breaks things down a little easier, so you absolutely get all the right stuff done.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right, is getting the right stuff done. And what I tend to find is just what you said. People choose the easy calls first, the familiar leads, the friendly leads, and then they don't call the lead that they haven't gotten a hold of because I've already called the person once or twice. And, I think, those of you who've read The Conversion Code by Chris Smith, right, the most recent data that I've heard on his podcast is that you have to call a minimum of 6 times, and then you're 93 or 94% likely to get a hold of a lead. And so, if you don't have a daily ritual that I'm going to call every lead until they apply, and of course, Chris would tell you that they're going to make 3 of those calls within the first day. So, they're doing it in more of a compressed time, but I would tell you as a loan officer, if you're not following up on those leads, because unfortunately your realtor probably isn't. And so you've got the opportunity to be the hero and follow up. But if you don't have it built into your calendar where I've got daily time where I'm going to call every lead until I'm done, so I push them off because I've done my best and committed, fulfilled my commitment to call. My team still calls 7 times. That's the commitment there, because that was the data from years ago and from a Harvard or MIT study on that. But it's just really making sure that you actually get those activities done. And if you're not really being proactive in scheduling it in, then the question is it going to happen by accident? I don't know. What do you see, John?
My phone's breaking up a little bit there, Todd.
No worries. So we may lose John in and out. If you guys, he was supposed to be in New York City at this time, and he's actually on a train and maybe pulling in a tunnel. So he will tell me when he's back on. And so we only have 7 minutes left in this call. So let me just kind of give you guys a couple of ways to sort of wrap it up, right? For those of you who don't know, I spend my day job as a coach. I'm a one-on-one coach for Building Champions, and I also coach within their Master's Coach program. I should give a quick plug for the Master's Coach because there's a handful of spots that people are applying for now. If you're interested in hanging out with people like John Downs, who you heard, he mentioned Lori Richardson, who's been on a bunch of calls, Josh Medal, who's on calls. Those are all current members of the Master's Coach. If you just go to themasterscoach.com, you can check it out. Maybe a great program for you to apply for. We're always looking for great people from the mortgage coach community to be part of there. So John says he's still alive. So any comments on the Master's Coach piece, Jonathan?
So yes, coaching in general, I think, I always say coaching, you're sort of outsourcing your management to kind of unlock whatever you have. And maybe some people out there are, you have that mentor, that manager internally that can give you a lot of that. But I don't think it really exists. I think when I look at myself today compared to where I was 3 years ago, I think I'm better trained, planned. I think I look at life differently. I think work-life balance is, although still not as much life, but, at least it's a mindset change that I'm trying to work on. But no, I think getting a bunch of top people around the country and then hearing all their struggles and then collectively figuring out how to conquer it, better marketing, better something, every single idea I have today was fostered from that group.
Love it. So, all right. So let's kind of go big picture as we kind of wrap up the call. So, what would be your action plans for the people who are on the call with regards to how to change what they're doing to help their realtors grow as we roll out of 2017 and plan big for 2018?
Is that a question, Todd?
That's a question. What's your action plan? I'm letting you play coach for a minute. So of the things that we discussed on this call today, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you want the people on this call to get off the call and go do to improve their business and that of their realtors in 2017 and that's left in 2018?
So one, I think utilization of TCA, I think you just got to do it. And I think even if you use my method where you do the TCA to find the talking points and snip the summary screen, I think you're 90% there. Just doing that, you're 10 legs up from the competition. I think step 2 is becoming more structured and intentional with yourself and how you run yourself. Step 3, I was talking to someone today, I believe, and we were talking about books, and I said, I don't necessarily like to read, and I can barely finish a book. But once I start reading with the idea that I'm going to teach it to other people, all of a sudden I can eat it up. So I think it's going to be really hard for anyone to go out there and start coaching their realtors if they're not embracing every single thing that's out there to learn, whether it's Chris Smith's book, Conversion Code, whether it's reading Ninja Selling, whether it's diving in and researching different open house practices around the country that you find on YouTube. But I think you need to, if you're going to coach real estate agents, I think you need to understand their job almost as good as they do, and realize that there's a segment of people out there that are going to embrace your help. There's a big segment out there that won't listen to it, and there's another big segment out there that doesn't need it. And the key is if you're going to go out there to coach people, just make sure you're coaching the right ones.
I love it. So I really appreciate, John, you taking the time. I know that it was kind of stressful for you with quote unquote being on the road to jump in and join us, and I appreciate all of you guys for dealing with the audio that we have. I would just throw a couple of other action items out there. I would go look up John Downs on Facebook and watch what he's doing, because ultimately John has become comfortable with video. He's willing to put out there and be transparent with his realtors, and he's using that platform, you heard it say it, to engage with the community. And so he's now got people who are actually reaching out to him, and he's sparking conversation because he's willing to be brave and put these things out there. I would also be looking at your own business internally, right? What is it that you can do as a result of this call today? Just pick one thing that you could do differently, whether it's proactive planning, whether it's reaching out to your realtors and helping a business plan, but what's one thing different that you could use to grow your business, and then specifically with relation to realtors? And then join this community. If you like the idea of, if you haven't been on our Friday mastermind call that Dave and I do at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, every Friday, we are bringing in great people who come in and talk specifically about different pieces of productivity to make more money in less time. Kelly Zitlow talking about videos. We had Roberto Monaco last week talking, giving feedback on different videos that were out there and how to be specific and to the point. We just had some really great content and great leaders within the community on there week in and week out. So be part of the community. I think that's the best way for you to learn and to grow and ultimately give feedback, right? Any way that Dave can influence you, if there's any guests you think he should have, if you think there's any way that we can improve this call, if you're like, hey, let's dig in on John's process in some other way, I'm sure John will be a future pillar of the mortgage coach community, because I think that he's going to continue to add value. You guys will see that as you get to know him. And I just want to say thanks to all of you for taking time to be here. I mean, it's one of those things where I think that any time that you're taking time out of your day to grow, that's the most important time that most people miss. And so I always congratulate those of you in the community who are here. Thanks again, John. I hope you have success. Didn't even ask you why you're going to New York, but I'm sure it's something big with something fun, hopefully. So have a great time there, and we are out until next week. I'm Todd Bookspan on behalf of Dave Savage and Mortgage Coach. Thanks again for being here. We really do appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys. I know it's like really loud where I am, but I really appreciated being on the panel today.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.